A thick hush blanketed the courtroom like an incoming storm, tense and electric. Officers lingered near the doorway, postures stiff, eyes narrowed with judgment. At the center of it all stood a poised black woman, head high, spine straight, refusing to be diminished by the undercurrent of contempt swirling around her. She had come seeking fairness, hoping the law would uphold her family's rights. What she found instead was prejudice tightening around her like a noose. What the officers didn't know, what they could never have guessed, was that the woman they were trying to intimidate was married to one of the most feared soldiers in modern military history. Her husband, Colonel Garrett Vaughn, wasn't just any soldier. He was a decorated Delta Force commander stationed at Fort Bragg, one of the U.S. Army's elite, a man whose mere name could make hardened operatives sit up straight. Her name was Celine Vaughn, and on that gray morning in the Mecklenburg County Courthouse, located deep in the heart of Charlotte, North Carolina, she stood not just for herself, but for a legacy far bigger than any courtroom could contain. The ceilings loomed high above, fluorescent lights flickered in long, buzzing corridors, and the air smelled faintly of old files and stale coffee. The whole place reeked of power misused, misdirected, and too often unchallenged. Celine wasn't new to the legal world. She'd worked for years as a paralegal in her cousin's law firm back in Raleigh before moving to Charlotte. She knew the rhythms of the court, the bustling attorneys, the overworked clerks, the disinterested bailiffs. But this time felt different. She could sense it in the sideways glances, the tense energy radiating off the uniforms, the whisper of something rotten beneath the surface. The bailiff, a square-jawed man with thinning hair and a stern demeanor, motioned for her to enter the courtroom. It was supposed to be a simple hearing over an old property dispute involving land her grandmother had lived on for over 50 years. A developer was trying to seize a portion of it, citing an ambiguous line in the county's property maps. Celine had all the records. Her documentation went back decades. The facts were on her side, but the air around her said otherwise. Two police officers, leaning casually near the entrance, wore smug expressions. Officer Paxton, tall with a rigid crew cut and mirrored sunglasses perched on his head, watched her with disdain. His partner, Officer Brill, shorter, stockier, with a sneer that seemed etched into his face, whispered something crude as she walked by. They radiated contempt, and it wasn't subtle. Celine took her seat. Her attorney, Wallace Briggs, a grizzled but respected older man, settling beside her. He'd advised her to stay calm and let the facts speak. But already she knew this wasn't going to be that kind of courtroom. As Wallace presented the deeds, surveyor maps, and historical documents, Celine could feel the officer's stares burning into her back. She remembered a conversation with Garrett just a few days prior. He called from the training grounds at Fort Bragg, his voice calm but firm. "If anything feels off," he'd said, "you let me know. Don't try to power through it alone. You don't need to." At the time, she'd laughed it off. She was strong. She was smart. She could handle this. She had no idea how wrong she was. Halfway through the hearing, while Wallace calmly laid out the land's ownership history, the judge seemed receptive. But something shifted in the room almost imperceptibly. The developer's lawyer started pressing hard, trying to cast doubt on her grandmother's records. Celine remained poised, but Paxton and Brill were whispering again. Laughing. The laughter was cold. Then came the recess. As people filed out, stretching legs or checking phones, Celine slipped toward the restroom. Behind her, Paxton and Brill followed. In the hallway, they made no attempt to lower their voices. "She thinks she owns this place," Brill muttered. Paxton chuckled. "Big mouth. Acts like she's better than the rest of us. She's about to lose everything. People like her always do." Celine clenched her fists. She didn't give them the satisfaction of turning around. She walked straight to the restroom, locked herself in a stall, and focused on breathing. "Calm, steady." She thought of Garrett's voice, like an anchor in her mind. When she returned to the courtroom, the rest of the hearing played out in a fog of tension. The judge postponed a decision, saying he needed more time to review the documents. Celine gathered her things, ignoring Paxton's sneer. As she turned to leave, Brill barked, "You're not supposed to be in here alone." "What?" she asked, confused. "You need an escort. Security rules." Celine blinked. "I'm collecting my files. That's all." Paxton stepped forward too close, his breath sour. "Your attitude needs work. You're lucky we don't write you up." Wallace intervened quickly. "Gentlemen, that's enough. Brill leaned in, his voice low and ugly. Better keep an eye on her. You never know what they're capable of. Celine didn't reply. She left. But inside, she was shaken. That night, she couldn't sleep. At 3 a.m., a patrol car parked across from her house. It idled there for nearly an hour before driving off. The next day, she was followed again, first at the gas station, then to the bank, then back home. Every time, a cruiser was nearby. Always the same 2 officers. She called Garrett. When his voicemail picked up, she left a calm but urgent message. I think something's going on. They're following me. Garrett didn't waste a second once he heard it. Within an hour, he'd secured leave from Fort Bragg. A Delta Force commander doesn't request time off lightly, but his reputation earned him exceptions. I'm coming, he texted. Stay safe. Don't open the door to anyone. Celine had just finished dinner when the knock came. 2 officers. Paxton and Brill. Again. We got a noise complaint, Brill said, smirking. Celine blinked. What noise? I just got home. We need to check inside, Paxton said. No, she replied. Not without a warrant. Paxton leaned in close. You sure you want to do this the hard way? I know my rights, she said, locking the door. She called Garrett. They were just here. No warrant. Just threats. I'll be there tonight, Garrett said, his voice razor-sharp. When he arrived, his towering frame, hard eyes, and calm intensity, Celine exhaled for the first time in days. The intimidation didn't stop. The next evening, the power was cut. 2 shadows moved in the backyard. Garrett, slipping into military mode, tracked them silently. They were wearing dark clothes, creeping with practiced stealth. One carried a crowbar, the other a pistol. Garrett struck fast. A joint lock dropped the first one. A brutal kick disarmed the second. Celine called 911. By the time the responding officers arrived, Garrett had both intruders subdued. Under the flashlight's glare, Celine saw their faces. Brill, and another officer she recognized from the courthouse. Sergeant Daria Knox, the senior officer on the scene, didn't hesitate. She saw the crowbar, the cut wires, the pistol. She ordered them cuffed on the spot. In the following days, the case exploded. Internal Affairs launched a full investigation. Celine gave statements. Garrett called in favorite contacts from federal agencies, allies who didn't tolerate corruption. It all unraveled fast. Complaints against Paxton, Brill, and their associates had been buried for years. Now the paper trail emerged. Harassment, excessive force, racial profiling. The judge in Celine's land case called her in for a private meeting. He reopened the case, determined to ensure justice. At the new hearing, the courtroom overflowed. Reporters, spectators, activists. Celine stood in a navy blue suit, shoulders square, voice unwavering. She told the truth. Every word. The judge ruled in her favor. Her family's land was safe. Outside, as cameras flashed, she gave a single statement. Courage and truth can break even the strongest chains of fear and corruption. Paxton was arrested a week later, caught trying to flee the state. Others followed. The precinct was purged. Reform began. And Celine? She didn't stop there. She spoke on panels, joined legal reform coalitions, worked pro bono for victims of harassment. One day, she returned to that same courthouse. Not as a defendant, as a keynote speaker. Garrett stood in the back, proud and still, the silent warrior who'd fought beside her. Because when corruption came for Celine Vaughn, it didn't just find a woman alone in a courtroom. It found the wrong woman. And it found a husband who happened to be the Army's most feared Delta Force commander.